Okay, picture this. A diplomatic showdown so intense, it almost canceled one of the biggest sporting events on the planet. And no, this wasn't happening at the UN. It was all going down on a cricket pitch. We're going to get into the wild story of how this legendary match was called off, and then, somehow, saved at the very last minute.
Well, after a week that felt like an eternity, filled with frantic talks and everybody holding their breath, it is official. The India versus Pakistan T20 World Cup showdown, it's back on. I think millions of fans around the world just breathed a huge sigh of relief.
But here's the real head-scratcher. Just a few days ago, this iconic rivalry was completely dead in the water, canceled. So what on earth happened behind the scenes to pull off this massive U-turn? Let's dig in and find out.
All right, so first, to really get just how big this comeback is, we need to understand how close the whole tournament came to absolute chaos. The fallout from canceling this one match would have been, well, immense. I mean, let's be clear, this is not just another game of cricket. When India and Pakistan face off, it's an event that grabs the attention of like a billion people. It's more than a game, it's a clash of titans, packed with history and so much passion. So when you talk about canceling this match, you're not just messing with a sports schedule. You're talking about something with serious global consequences.
And all that passion, it translates into some serious cash. Just look at this number. That's the estimated value of the broadcast rights and all the commercial deals tied to this one single match. So when that boycott was announced, a fortune was just hanging in the balance. Saving this game wasn't just about cricket. It was about saving a massive financial pillar for the entire World Cup.
And you know what's crazy? This whole thing happened so fast. On February 1st, Pakistan drops a bombshell. They're boycotting. That sets off this absolutely frantic weekend of secret talks, leading to a marathon meeting Sunday night in Lahore that goes for hours, and then bam! By Monday, the U-turn is official, and the game for February 15th is back on. A major crisis totally averted in just a few days.
So you're probably wondering, what could possibly trigger such a high-stakes move? Well, this is where the story gets really interesting, because the reason for all this had absolutely nothing to do with the famous India-Pakistan rivalry.
Turns out, the boycott was really an act of solidarity. Pakistan was taking a stand, but for another country, Bangladesh. You see, the International Cricket Council, the ICC, had kicked Bangladesh out of the tournament. And why? Because Bangladesh refused to play its matches in India, and they had a good reason. There were serious security concerns after one of their star players, Mustafizur Rahman, received specific threats. So Pakistan's cricket board saw this and basically said, no, this is a huge injustice, accusing the ICC of having double standards. That's what led to their bombshell decision to boycott.
And this quote from Mohsin Naqvi, the chairman of Pakistan's cricket board, really just says it all. He made it crystal clear. Our one and only condition for playing is that you fix this injustice against Bangladesh. It was a massive power play, really, using the world's most watched cricket match as leverage.
So how do you even begin to walk back from the brink of a crisis this big? With so much on the line, those back-channel talks pretty quickly turned into a full-on diplomatic mission to find a deal, and fast.
The real turning point came during that marathon meeting in Lahore on Sunday night. You had the heads of the Pakistan, Bangladesh, and the international cricket boards all locked in a room, negotiating for hours way into the early morning. It was right there, in that room, that they finally hammered out a solution.
So, what happened for Bangladesh, the country at the heart of all this? Well, check out the difference here. Before this deal, they were out of the World Cup and facing some pretty severe penalties. But after, not only were all those penalties dropped, but to make things right, Bangladesh was actually awarded the right to host a major ICC event sometime before 2031. It was a huge win for them, a real diplomatic victory.
So, if we break it down, the final agreement had a few key parts. First, complete amnesty for Bangladesh. No penalties, period. Second, that huge promise of hosting a future tournament. And third, they could still take the issue further if they wanted to. And it's also worth pointing out, this wasn't just a three-way negotiation. Other friendly countries, like Sri Lanka and the UAE, were also working in the background, pushing everyone toward a peaceful solution.
So, with a deal finally on the table, the last thing to do was make the reversal official and, get the world excited for this epic match all over again.
The final official word came straight from Pakistan's Prime Minister. He framed the U-turn not as backing down, but as a decision made to protect the very spirit of cricket. Basically, once their diplomatic goals were met, the government gave the team the green light to get back on the pitch.
And just like that, a crisis that could have completely derailed the T20 World Cup was over.
The tournament schedule was safe, all that money from commercial deals was protected, and most importantly for the fans, one of the most electric rivalries in all of sports was officially back on.
You know, this whole thing is a fascinating reminder that sometimes the biggest battles in sports aren't fought on the field, but in the boardroom. It really makes you wonder, in a world that's so often defined by its divisions, what is the true potential for sports to act as a bridge for diplomacy? Something to think about.